Good afternoon, everyone. This is Maria Waters, Regional Outreach Coordinator for Central Oregon. And Jessica and I are here to talk to you today a little bit more about CCO 2.0 and CPOP's role. So as community partners, what will your role be in the CCO 2.0 transition, and what tools and resources will you have at your disposal to make this as easy as possible? So today we're going to start off by talking a little bit about some high-level CCO 2.0 changes. We are going to revisit the member communication timeline. We will start talking a little bit about the web form that will be opening up to help people make changes to their CCO selection. We're going to introduce you to the new call center that will be opening in order to support CCO 2.0 changes. We'll go over some available resources that you will have as community partners and also for clients. And then finally, we'll finish up by talking about the roles and responsibilities for community partners. So these first few slides should look familiar to many of you. These were also covered in the stakeholder webinar that was, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and led by Rob Cowie, our Director of Communications here at OHA, and our very own Maria Vargas, and David Valentine, who is the project coordinator for the CCO 2.0 project. So coming into 2020, there are some significant changes happening with CCOs. As many of you are probably already aware, there are 2 CCOs that are expanding their service area. Trillium is moving into both Multnomah and Clackamas and Washington counties, and Pacific Source Community Solutions is opening new CCOs in both Lane and Marion Polk counties. We should note that these are still subject to readiness review, so we are working off of the assumption that things are moving forward, but please know that these are not finalized until OHA puts out official communication about that. Additionally, there are 2 CCOs that are exiting the market. The first is Primary Health, which covered Josephine, Jackson, and parts of Douglas counties, as well as Willamette Valley Community Health. That was a planned closure in Marion Polk, as well as parts of Lynn, Benton, Yamhill, and Clackamas counties. So it is also important to take into consideration that not all areas of the state are being impacted. The east side of the state is not expected to have any changes in this round of CCO contracts. And as a result, we expect that assisters in that area will not see a huge influx of clients during the member transition process. However, it may trigger some updates if addresses had not been properly updated. It also may generate some client questions regardless of geographic area. There is a lot of media coverage about this transition, and so members across the state will probably be hearing about these changes and may want to inquire to make sure that there's nothing that they need to do. Because of that, it's going to be really important that assisters stay informed and aware of resources, and members who will not be impacted by a CCO change will also not be receiving any mailings or notices. So that is an exciting change that was made to reduce confusion. So if you live in an area that does not have a CCO change, unless someone comes in as a result of a media contact, they're not going to be receiving any mailings from the Oregon Health Authority or from OHP. This is an updated map based off of the current CCO intent to award notifications. Again, our readiness review process is expected to conclude at any moment. So I would imagine we'll get the final word out here shortly. But in the meantime, this is what the new CCO coverage map should look like. You can see that on the east side, there are no changes. In the west side of the state, there are quite a few updates. All right, what does this timeline look like? So we are currently already in early September, if you can believe it. So next week, actually, our new PHTech call center will be opening up that will be supporting CCO 2.0 questions and assistance need. We're going to talk about that in more detail in just a few moments. And then later on this month, there will be postcards going out to members who may be, or not just maybe, who either may be or will be making a CCO transition based off of the service area they're in. So again, only members who are going to be impacted by the CCO changes will be getting those postcards. Moving into October, members will be getting formal letters with the initial CCO selection made on their behalf based off of the usage of their benefits. We'll talk about that more in detail as well. And moving into October and November, the opportunity to make changes to those CCO selections will be live. And that will be done either using the call center or a website you can visit. And then moving into December and January 1st, January 1st will be when the new CCOs are live and those changes will be implemented. We're not going to talk too much more about the timeline or changes impacted by the communications. If you have questions about that, I would refer you to the stakeholder webinar that was held 2 weeks ago that was recorded and available on OHA's website. If you have questions or need help accessing that webinar, please reach out to your regional outreach coordinator and we can link that to you. The purpose of today's training is really to talk about resources for community partners rather than get into the specifics about CCO 2.0. As an example, this is an example, or these are examples of the 2 pieces of communication that members will be getting in September and October. So on your left, the 2 color images are the initial pick your plan, changes are coming postcard that people will be getting. It is a fold piece, so they'll have to unfold it and have the information. On your far right in black and white, that is the communication that will actually contain the CCO that's been selected for each individual household member, and also their letter ID, which you will find out later is a very important piece of information. So please take note of this communication on the far right in black and white. That letter, for those of you in areas where changes are coming, will be important because that letter ID will be needed to make CCO changes. And again, that letter will include the suggested CCO match. The process for that was explained in that CCO 2.0 stakeholder webinar. It will primarily be based off of geographic area and member usage of their benefits. It will also list any other available CCO choices in their area, as well as instructions on how to compare the CCOs that they are eligible to choose, and then that letter ID number that we referenced earlier. That letter ID number, this notice will not be in the one system. So that letter ID number is unique to this letter and will not be able to be found in the communication or message box of the one system. It will also link to a CCO comparison guide. A little bit more specifically, the CCO choice is going to be based off of members who have received care in the past 15 months. That includes behavioral healthcare provider and primary healthcare provider. And based off of those network matches in the CCOs, they will be assigned to best support continuity of care for those members. Keep in mind that they can choose whatever CCO they would like after this letter has been mailed. So we're going to talk about how to make changes if they do not like the CCO that has been chosen. If members want to keep their matched plan, they will not have to take any additional steps. If they are satisfied with the choice that's been made, no additional contact will be necessary. They don't need to call, they don't need to reach out, they're good to go. So for community partners, what do you need to do if you have a client who wants to change their CCO? There's going to be 2 ways that community partners can assist clients with changing their CCO. The easiest way and fastest way is going to be to use a new web form that's being created and will launch in October. I believe it's October 15th, the day before any mailings go out. And that web form will only be able to be used to assist with CCO changes related to CCO 2.0. That form will not work to make CCO changes due to a change of address. We are going to be following up this training with a full training on how to use the webinar at the beginning of October, so stay tuned for that. But I can give you good news that the web form itself is very simple. It's just about 4 screens, and it closely resembles that of the Report TPL web form that assisters may be very familiar with. So it's really just a fill-in-the-blank web form that can be easily navigated. So we do not expect there to be many challenges actually accessing or navigating the web form, but we will be walking you through the steps on how to do it, and then also what to do if the form doesn't work for whatever reason. Please note that in order to use that web form, clients are going to have both the letter ID from the mailing that they get, as well as their OHP ID number. If they don't have that, some additional steps will be necessary in order to complete the web form. The second way to assist with CCO changes would be to call the PH Tech call center. This is the new call center that is being operationalized just to assist with CCO 2.0 changes. It was really important to OHA that we do not increase the volume of calls to the existing call center. As we all know and are very excited about, they are operating on a virtually same day, next day turnaround time, and we don't want to impact that. Because CCO 2.0 CCO selections have nothing to do with eligibility, we were able to stand up the second call center to just take care of those transactions. It will be a separate number than the normal OHP call center, and that number will be included in this presentation in the next couple of slides. And as I mentioned earlier, it will only be available to assist with CCO 2.0 questions and CCO changes. This will not be an eligibility call center. They will not be able to make updates to the case or anything else. It will just be handling changes to CCOs as a result of CCO 2.0. This call center will be operational from the mid to end of September of this month, actually, to spring of 2020. While we expect that most of the volume will happen this fall and maybe in January, we do want to make sure that members have resources available to them to answer questions or make changes if necessary into 2020. So just know that they will be around for a good chunk of time. So this is just a sneak peek of what the web form will look like. So when you go to the website, it will just remind you of what you need. The key pieces of information being their OHP ID number that is contained in the letter mailed out mid-October. I believe the first mailings are going out October 16th. And then just information on what CCO they want to choose. There will also be some resource links on this landing page. So if clients have any questions, need additional help, need comparison guides, anything like that, it will all be available on this web form. In addition to the English version, there will also be a Spanish option. Please note that the web form will only be available in English and Spanish. Additional language services will be available through the PH Tech call center. Additionally, as assisters, we have the Voyance language line that can also assist in helping members who might need other languages available to make their decision. So you could also engage that language line and then fill out the web form with the client present. Because of time crunch, we would love to have this web form in many other languages, but because of the time crunch, it just was not feasible to be able to translate into other languages. So as an assister, when are you going to need to reach out to assistants, and why would you need to call the new PH Tech call center? So here are 3 scenarios of clients coming in to get assistance from you as an assister. In scenario 1, in the green box, the client is coming in either asking questions or wanting to make changes to their CCO selection, and they have their OHP ID number and also the letter number or the letter in hand. In those scenarios, you can assist the client with whatever questions they have and also complete the web form if necessary without any additional resources. You will have a direct link to the web form, and using that OHP ID number and letter number, you'll be able to log in and walk through the steps to make those changes. However, if a client comes in and does not have their OHP ID, for those community partners that are provider community partners or assisters and have access to the MMIS system, you can log into MMIS, obtain the OHP ID number, and then use the letter number that they have. If you do not have access to MMIS, you're going to need to call you will need to call the PH Tech call center and obtain the OHP ID. Please do not call the existing call center for this information. Because it is not requiring an eligibility update, we want to refrain from causing an increase of call volume to the existing call center. In the third scenario, what if the client does not have their CCO 2.0 letter number? All community partners will need to call the PH Tech call center to get that number. When you call PH Tech, there are certain things that they can help with and cannot help with. So you should call PH Tech if you need to get the letter number from the CCO 2.0 notice, or if you don't have access to MMIS and need the OHP ID number to complete CCO 2.0 web form. You should not be calling PH Tech call center if the client has other eligibility questions, or if they need to make additional changes, including address updates or other household changes, income changes, things like that. You can still use the One System to complete those updates. If that's not something that you can do within the One System, then you would call the existing community partner line to make those changes. I want to reiterate that the PH Tech call center, aside from having the OHP ID number and the letter number, they have no authority or permissions to make changes that you don't have already through the One System. So aside from acquiring those pieces of information, you actually have more tools at your disposal than the call center does because you have access to the One System. So just keep that in mind. Really just use them as a resource for those two pieces of information. Community partner roles and responsibilities. As a community partner, we acknowledge that you guys have limited capacity and that there are many demands on your time. At the same time, we also very much appreciate the work that you do to support clients and remove barriers to care for any type of medical care that they need. And so as a result, there are some things that you can do to make it as accessible as possible. The first is be sure and stay up to date with the most recent messaging and communication regarding member transition from both OHA and also our team, the Community Partner Outreach team. Regardless of whether you're in an area that will have changes or not, we anticipate that there will be clients with questions across the state. So it's going to be very important to stay plugged in. GroupSite is a great resource, and also the OHA and OHP websites, which we'll be showing you on the next slide. The second thing is to know where clients can access resources and comparison guides to make the best CCO choice for themselves. This is just a reminder that it is not our job to recommend CCOs based off of personal opinion or preference. Assisters offer what's called choice counseling, and that means that we provide resources for clients to make the best decisions for them, but we don't use our own personal biases to make decisions on their behalf. This is very similar to the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace process. So for those of you who are assisters that do marketplace enrollments, it's the same member choice counseling process that happens in the marketplace world. The last thing is to understand how to use the web form and access OHP IDs and letter numbers if necessary. Again, PH Tech Call Center is going to be your first and only choice to access the letter IDs and OHP IDs if needed. Don't forget about MMIS for those of you who have access to that. But aside from obtaining those two pieces of information, you should be able to assist clients pretty quickly without any further barrier. I would not anticipate that the web form will take more than 2 or 3 minutes to get through. So some additional resources for you. We have a Getting Ready for 2020 guide. We have intentionally provided a link to that website rather than sending out the document because there are always changes that are coming and we want to ensure that we're giving out the most up-to-date information and that someone doesn't get an old version with outdated information that causes some sort of a problem to their care. The second thing are the members-facing CCO 2.0 pages on ohp.oregon.gov. That is set to launch September 15th, so that'll be coming out next week. And that page will include the comparison guides, copies of the letters that we're going to be mailed out so that way you can provide a visual reference to your clients, and also an FAQ. Third, there's a plan and stakeholder-facing CCO 2.0 pages on OHPV. And we will be launching the Webform training on October 1st. So on October 1st, we will be pushing out a very short 15-minute or less training on how to use the Webform and what to do if it doesn't work. And then lastly, this is the PH Tech call center number. Please take note and write it down. Again, it will not be active for about another week or so, but you can begin using that number for CCO 2.0 related questions after September 16th. And here's some additional links on how to stay informed with the upcoming changes.
Awesome.
So with that,
yeah, we do have a question that I don't have an answer for off the bat, which is consent forms. What are the expectations for interacting with PH Tech, and what should CPs do?
That is a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. I meant to talk about that and didn't. So consent forms will not be required. Consent forms are always required. Providing proof of a consent form to the PH Tech call center will not be required. Because the web form is a public-facing website, when you call into PH Tech, they will be verifying your assister ID number, just like when you call into the call center, but providing a copy of the consent form will not be required. So please do make sure that anytime you interact with a client, you have a consent form on file, but you will not be required to email it in like you would in the normal call center. That's a great time also to bring up that when you call the PH Tech call center, they will not have access to the community partner email boxes that the regular call center does. So if you would have sent something to the outreach email box or the urgent email box, the PH Tech call center will not have access to any of those email boxes. So great question. You will need your assister ID just like normal, but nothing else.
We had a question about getting the updated map, and I believe these websites that are listed right here are the best way to get there.
That's correct. So I would go to the CCO 2.0 website, and that will have the most up-to-date versions of the map. Please remember decisions about the final CCO contracts based off of the readiness review will be coming out shortly, and that's when those maps will be final. Right now, these are working draft forms based off of the intent to award contract notifications.
And other than that, the only other thing I see is, can we get these slides? And the answer is going to be yes. There's a lot of links in here, so that's a great reminder that we need to get this up to a group site quickly so people can access these tools.
Yes, and we are actually also going to be going over these slides in collaboratives. So if you have additional questions, please ask them now, or you can email us. But additionally, we're going to be talking about this in collaboratives, and then we'll also be sending out a recording of this to every assister. As you can imagine, it's very important that every assister hears this information and gets the updates. We want to make sure that there is as little confusion as possible when clients come in asking about CCO 2.0. This could be somewhat of a scary or uncertain time for clients, and having any changes to your medical benefits can also be just raising a lot of questions. And so we want to make sure assisters are as informed as possible to prevent any further confusion.
Yeah. And because I don't see any other ones, I think we're going to wrap up this recording and this presentation, and we'll see you all on group site and in our collaboratives and other ways that we'll be communicating.